Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some more massive news for the Florida State Seminole fans coming out of the transfer portal as former Florida State linebacker and now once again current Florida State linebacker DJ Lundy withdrawing his name from the transfer portal, returning back to Tallahassee. And we've broken down almost every single commitment for Florida State over the last couple of days. And Mike Norvell has done a phenomenal job in the transfer portal over the last week. I think DJ Lundy coming back might be the most significant piece of news we've had for Florida State in the last couple of days. I mean, the conversations that we had with Florida State where they're doing a really nice job filling some needs in the portal, but that one glaring need they still need to address is that off-ball linebacker position. And a guy like DJ Lundy, who has played a ton of football for Florida State, coming back as a fifth-year senior, being that veteran presence in that position group, is absolutely massive for Florida State. And you start taking a look at Florida State and what they've done in the transfer portal, and they're starting to check off a lot of boxes. I want to talk about DJ Lundy, what this means for Florida State, and then continue to offer a few names for Florida State to continue to pursue in the transfer portal. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. And as usual, shout out to the Florida State fans. This has been a program that's been a blast to cover over the last couple of days. And I want to continue to just say thank you guys so much for all the support. A ton of nice comments in the comment section. You guys mean the world to me. Cannot thank you guys enough. And without further ado, let's get into DJ Lundy, talk a little bit about what he brings. And a lot of Florida State fans obviously very familiar with DJ Lundy. And the first thing you want to talk about is not only the experience that DJ Lundy has and the productivity that he has in bringing back to Florida State, but this is a linebacker that in my mind was one of the best linebackers against the run that you saw in college football last year. You started looking into the numbers of him in 2023, 54 tackles, but a guy that only missed 3.4% of his tackles. That is an astronomically low number. DJ Lundy at 6'1", 245 pounds, is a guy that's extremely physical, can take on blocks, get off blocks, and make his plays at or around the line of scrimmage. His average depth of tackle last year in the run game, only 2.4 yards down the field. DJ Lundy is downhill. He's physical. And you talk about winning first and second down, stopping the run, getting teams into those third and long situations. A guy like DJ Lundy is certainly going to allow that to happen. 24 run stops, a guy that is extremely physical in the tackle box. And you take a look at this Florida State linebacker room, and this is what we kind of talked about. This is not me being out on a guy like Blake Nicholson or Omar Graham. It's more of you look at this roster. And the same conversation we had for Florida State 12 months ago, what was so appealing to this Florida State team is they checked a lot of boxes. There were not a lot of holes in this Florida State depth chart 12 months ago. And you're starting to say the same thing about this Florida State team heading into 2024 as well. But one of the bigger holes that we saw was at that off-ball linebacker spot. You got to see some of the young guys get some playing time against Georgia. They just didn't look ready. And that's not to say they won't be ready by the start of the 2024 season, but if you're Mike Norvell, you're that Florida State staff, you're saying, we want to know what we have right now. And so linebacker was a priority for Florida State in the portal. They had some guys on campus, and we'll talk about a few names that I would like to see Florida State continue to go after, but they didn't land any commitments. And they started checking off boxes, bringing in some wide receivers, bringing in some guys on the defensive line. You started feeling good about this roster, but that one spot that we kept saying was a priority for Florida State that they haven't addressed was that linebacker position. And in this era of the transfer portal, one of the bigger conversations that I don't have enough, and I don't think the national media has enough of, is keeping your guys out of the transfer portal and roster retention. It's always great to go and grab new faces who are experienced and come in and help this program. But it's even more important to keep those guys that were good football players for you in this program and in the scheme and continuing to develop. And a guy like DJ Lundy probably going to play a lot more than he did the last couple seasons because he's that veteran presence in that Florida State linebacker room. And again, like this one has me fired up. I remember talking about this one when DJ Lundy committed to Colorado as a guy I was extremely excited for to join this Colorado defense because how good he is in the run game and how good of a tackler he is. Coming back to Florida State, massive news for the Nole fans. Now, you start looking at this Florida State class in 2024 and what they're doing in the transfer portal. Again, a lot of boxes checked. You're adding a lot of talent and depth to that secondary room. Guys like Devontae Brown, Earl Little, You obviously get DJU, Tamiwa, we talked about yesterday. There's not a lot of boxes that aren't getting checked. And the last name that I want to talk about, and I would think that Florida State continues to add pieces to this roster in the transfer portal. But one name that I want to talk about that I am a huge fan of in the transfer portal is Nikhai Hill-Green. Was on campus for Florida State earlier, I think this weekend. This is a guy that, as a Michigan fan, I'm extremely familiar with. He transfers to Charlotte in 2023, a guy that had over 80 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Somebody who, again, is that veteran presence that's played a lot of football, and it puts Florida State in a spot where they don't need to force a guy like Omar Graham or Blake Nicholson to play in 2024 if they are not ready. And yes, is there a chance that Blake Nicholson, Omar Graham start winning and earning more reps throughout spring practice and fall camp? Absolutely. And if you're a Florida State fan, that is exactly what you're hoping for in terms of progression of some of the young talent on the roster. But you don't want to go into 2024 not really having a contingency plan, or at least some floor of what you know you're getting at that linebacker position. And I think 15 minutes ago, before we knew DJ Lundy was coming back, you didn't really know what you had at that linebacker room. And you were kind of just hoping that some of the progression would happen with some of these young guys. But now you know. And you add a guy like Nikhai Hill-Green, and you have DJ Lundy, Nikhai Hill-Green, 2 guys that have played a ton of football. And again, Nikhai Hill-Green looked awesome at the Power 5 conference for Michigan a couple of years ago, just kind of got phased out. I think he would be a phenomenal addition to Florida State. It doesn't sound like Florida State's slowing down in the transfer portal anytime soon. So we'll continue to update you guys on some of the new faces, but I wanted to hop on and talk about what I thought this meant for the program. And again, many Florida State fans, you guys check this out for new faces that you want to get some updates on. Y'all know what you're getting with DJ Lundy. And this is a guy that is going to be a very good linebacker for Florida State in 2024. Massive, massive news for the Nole fans. And again, can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. This has been a program that's been a blast talking about for largely what has been 12 months now. So can't thank you guys enough for the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.